Good evening to our viewers watching on television and those joining us online across our social media platforms. I am Adana Doric with the Thursday, March 19th edition of the Guyana TV9 News. In the headline tonight, Deep South Rupununi set for massive economic transformation. No more excuses. Minister Prasad demands highest standards at Palm's Geriatric Home. Caribbean HIV flight risk. Minister Anthony warns of drug gaps and rising youth infections. Berbice man jailed 12 years for violent rape attack. U.S. guarantees no third country extradition for Mohammeds. Legal battle intensifies over diplomatic language. And Georgetown teacher on leave amid sexual assault probe. Now for the news in depth. President Dr. Irfan Ali has pledged a massive transformation for the Deep South Rupununi, moving large-scale farming, cattle rearing, and tourism to the top of the government's development agenda. During a high-level meeting with Tushaus, the president detailed a strategic push to attract major investments and modernize infrastructure across the region. Here's more. According to the president, the government is prioritizing large-scale agricultural expansion, including cattle herding, peanut cultivation, and the development of pasture lands, alongside new irrigation and drainage systems to strengthen production in hinterland communities. He stated that these measures are aimed at moving villages beyond subsistence farming into sustainable, income-generating economies.
I'm very pleased today to have the opportunity once again to meet with the Tushaus from South the Minister Zulfi, Minister of Agriculture, our Tourism Minister Suzanne Vic, who is also here. And of course, Sarah, the Minister of Marine Affairs. We have been working very closely with all of the Marine communities, but in the South, there's tremendous potential tourism, agriculture, the infrastructure development that is taking place there, agro-processing, and we want to now move towards large-scale initiatives, including cattle farming, mining, environmental stewardship, biodiversity, and all of these things. So today,
the president highlighted that tourism development will run alongside agriculture. Plans are underway to establish a structured tourism circuit in the Deep South, attracting visitors to the region's savannas and indigenous communities while creating new income stream for residents. In addition, investments are being aligned with business development. A business incubator in Latam will support agro-processing, with facilities for dehydration, juicing, and packaging to help communities add value to crops and access wider markets. President Ali noted that the government is working closely with the South Rupununi District Council to identify opportunities and bring in investors who can partner directly with villages. He stressed that continuous engagement is critical to ensure development plans are successfully implemented.
We've already embarked on the Ministry of Tourism. We're doing a full business assessment on the potential and opportunities so that we can bring investors in to work with the villages and the community. Nick has been working over time on getting some of the action plan moving forward.
Government officials also highlighted ongoing projects such as cage aquaculture, fruit production, and support for local farmers, noting that markets are already being created for commodities including mangoes and vegetables. Tushaus welcomed the continued collaboration, noting that the government's responsiveness to their proposals has positioned the Deep South Rupununi for rapid progress. They expressed confidence that sustained investment and dialogue will accelerate development and improve livelihoods across the region. Adana Doric, Guyana TV9 News. Minister of Health and Chair of the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, PANCAP Executive Board, Dr. Frank Anthony has raised serious concerns over the Caribbean's fight against HIV/AIDS, warning that limited access to newer treatments and decline in international funding threaten to reserve years of progress. More in this report.
Speaking at the opening of the National AIDS Program Managers and Key Partners meeting on Wednesday, Dr. Anthony said that while global pricing for new drugs like lenacapavir is expected to drop significantly, Caribbean nations are still struggling to access the medication.
We have seen that by 2027, the cost of lenacapavir should come down to about $40 per year. And that is remarkable progress. The challenge, however, is that while that is happening, we in the Caribbean still do not have access to this drug.
Dr. Anthony also noted that agreements between pharmaceutical companies and countries can further complicate access to critical medicines.
Sometimes ARVs that are available, the companies actually would tie up countries through different types of agreement.
He added that the reduction in international funding, particularly from the Global Fund, is placing additional strain on national HIV programs across the region, making it harder to sustain prevention, treatment, and care efforts. Meanwhile, Lake Crambodo, Minister of Health of Trinidad and Tobago, highlighted alarming trends among young people in the Caribbean. He reported that individuals aged 15 to 24 now account for roughly 1/4 of new HIV infections, pointing to gaps in youth-friendly prevention and education programs.
But of course, challenges remain. Our young people aged 15 to 24 account for 1/4 of new infections, underscoring the need, of course, for youth-friendly prevention services. Key populations continue to shoulder a disproportionate burden of HIV.
Dr. Bodo also drew attention to treatment gaps for children living with HIV.
Also is the issue of the pediatric treatment coverage, which tends to lag significantly behind, with only 36% of children living with HIV on treatment, and less than 1/3 achieving viral suppression.
Both ministers stressed that the Caribbean has made notable progress in reducing HIV transmission over the years, including expanding treatment coverage and public awareness campaigns. However, they warned that unless urgent action is taken to close gaps in prevention, ensure equitable access to affordable medication, and focus on youth and children, the region risks losing the hard-won gains of the past decades. Melanie Morris, Gyan TV9 News.
A stark warning has been issued to staff at the Palms as Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Honorable Dr. Vindya Prasad, signaled sweeping changes aimed at restoring discipline and improving care for vulnerable residents. More in this report. Addressing workers directly, the minister made it clear that reforms are already underway targeting both the quality of care provided to residents and the working conditions of staff, particularly nurses and caregivers. But beneath the promise of improvement lay a serious concern: attendance. According to her, an internal review has uncovered troubling patterns showing that while some nurses consistently go above and beyond, even taking in extra shifts, others have repeatedly failed to report for duty, placing added strain on their colleagues and potentially compromising patient care.
I want to speak with you because a number of changes would have been put in place at the Palms. One, to look at the conditions and the improved quality of care for our residents, and two, to look at you as staff, because we want our staff, especially our nursing staff, our caregiving staff, one, to have the conditions under which they can operate in a very productive way, and two, to be able to have development of their own skills. One, we looked at the analysis of attendance. When I met with you before, I would have discussed with you your attendance, and we did find a number of very questionable areas when it came to attendance. There were some nurses that were very diligent. They're coming on all of their shifts. They're working above and beyond.
The minister stressed that the issue is not a shortage of staff, but a failure of accountability. The burden, she noted, is unfairly falling on dedicated workers who are left to pick up the slacks.
It is not because there is a shortage of staff that they're carrying other people's shifts. It is because people are not turning out to work. Let me start with this, because this is of great concern to myself, to the Permanent Secretary, and to the ministry at large. We cannot continue like this. So we are going to do an analysis of attendance, and there will be penalties for that.
With a full attendance audit now underway, the ministry has made it clear change is coming and those who fail to meet their responsibilities will face consequences. Adana Doric, Ghana TV9 News. The high-stakes extradition proceedings against prominent businessman Nazar Mohammed and his son Azruddin Mohammed took a significant turn in court on Thursday. The central revelation was an assurance from the United States government that, if extradited, the pair will not be handed over to any third country to face separate charges.
The disclosure emerged during the continued cross-examination of Sharon Rupchand Edwards, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Rupchand Edwards, who has been providing evidence since January, testified that the government of Guyana proactively sought these guarantees from the U.S. authorities. She explained that the move was a precautionary step to ensure that international treaty provisions, specifically those prohibiting re-extradition, would be strictly honored. However, the validity of these assurances became a point of intense legal friction. Senior counsel Roysdale Ford, representing Azruddin Mohammed, pointedly challenged the permanent secretary's testimony. Ford focused on a specific diplomatic communication, Note Verbal number 1680 of 2025. He argued that the document did not explicitly request any such undertakings from the U.S., suggesting a gap between the government's claim and the written record. This sparked a technical debate over semantics, the difference between an assurance and an undertaking. Prosecutor Herbert McKenzie argued the terms are effectively the same. Conversely, Ford contended that assurances merely reaffirm existing treaty obligations, while undertakings represent additional legally binding commitments outside the standard treaty framework. Despite the back and forth, Magistrate Judy Latchman allowed the questioning to proceed. After pausing to review the diplomatic note, Rupchand Edwards stood by her testimony, reaffirming that Guyana had indeed sought confirmation that all treaty obligations would be respected. The Permanent Secretary also shed light on the administrative handling of the case. She admitted she was not involved in the initial discussions or the drafting of the note, only becoming aware of the document after the fact. Furthermore, she acknowledged that she did not forward the U.S. extradition documents to a legal officer for a local compliance review, nor did she seek independent clarification from the U.S. Embassy on specific treaty nuances. Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed were arrested in October 2025 following a U.S. request. They face serious allegations, including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and customs violations tied to a massive $50 million gold smuggling operation. The Mohammeds remain on $150,000 bail each under strict conditions, including the surrender of their passports and weekly reports to the Rimeville police station. The court has adjourned for the remainder of the week, with the hearing scheduled to resume from March 24th to March 27. Melanie Morris, Guyana Tv9 News.
A 29-year-old man from Kilroy, Berbice, has been sentenced to 12 years and 8 months in prison after pleading guilty to rape and assault. Anthony Jeffrey admitted to attacking a woman in the early hours of March 4, 2024. After entering her home, armed with a cutlass and firearm, the assault was interrupted when a neighbor raised an alarm, forcing him to flee. Medical reports confirmed the victim suffered multiple injuries. He was also sentenced to 3 years and 4 months for assault, with both sentencing running concurrently and time on remand to be deducted. More news after the break. Stay tuned.
Want to place your death announcements and in memoriam messages on Channel 9? Call 592-761-5006, 710-5008, 600-5006. Or visit our office at Lot 85A Lamaha Street, Albertown, Georgetown. Century 21 Building.
Guyana, Channel 9 is now Guy TV9, proudly under new management. We're building stronger with a balanced and open platform for all advertisers. Whether you're promoting a business, service, or event, your message belongs right here. So choose your spot, news, primetime, or anytime, and reach viewers across Guyana. With affordable rates and professional service, Guy TV9 is your partner in progress. So visit us at Lot 21A, Lamahar Street, Georgetown, in the Century 21 building, or call 600-5006 or 761-5006. Guyana TV9. New leadership, fresh outlook, real results.
Welcome back. You're watching Guyana TV9 News Bulletin. Vendors at the bustling Stabroek Market Square were on Wednesday assured that sweeping rehabilitation works on the market's canopy will proceed without crippling their livelihoods, as Mayor Alfred Mentor outlined a carefully phrased plan designed to keep business flowing even amid construction. More in this report. Speaking directly to vendors who operate daily beneath the aging canopy, Mentor emphasized that the project being executed in collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government and contractor BM Enterprise will unfold in 2 stages to reduce disruption while ensuring critical upgrades are completed efficiently. The first phase will see vendors temporarily relocated from the northern end of the canopy to a nearby section of the roadway, which will be cordoned off to allow continued vending. Once that section is completed, the second phase will shift operations to the southern end, allowing contractors uninterrupted access to carry out works including roof repairs, drainage upgrades, and sanitation improvements.
We are here today, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors and others, to speak on the canopy that you see here at the Stabroek Market. We know many of you vendors operate under that particular canopy, and it's been operating there for some time. And however, there's a project between the central government and the council where we are doing the mobilization of how we get this situation done, where there's work that will be happening under the canopy.
City officials also confirmed that vendors who are uncomfortable selling along the roadway during the transition will have the option to pause operations temporarily, though the mayor encouraged cooperation to ensure the project stays on schedule. Acknowledging the financial strain that may accompany the transition, Mentor was candid about the trade.
We understand there can be some inconvenience, but like I've always said, anytime for you to get success or for you to get betterment, there will be need for some inconvenience. So you'll have some inconvenience here. You might lose a couple of dollars, but you're going to be better off at the end of the day, where you'll have a better place to sell and so on and so forth. So that situation will be done for the first phase, from this end here, which is the north end, to the middle of the Stabroek, and then in the next week or so, they will move to push it to the other end. This job itself will take a couple of weeks. What we know for sure is that this engineer here would have asked you to shift, but we didn't. Even though that might have happened from the administrative side.
Beyond the canopy itself, the project will tackle long-standing infrastructural concerns, including block drainage, inadequate piping, and water sanitation issues affecting nearby food vendors and butchers. Officials said these upgrades are essential to creating a safer, more hygienic, and more sustainable marketplace. He underscored the economic importance of vendors in Georgetown's commercial ecosystem, noting that their role extends far beyond street-level trade. He explained that vending plays a vital part in supporting livelihoods, enabling individuals to meet everyday expenses such as rent and education, while urging vendors to remain engaged and maintain open communication throughout the process. Adana Doric, Guyana TV9 News. A teacher at a Georgetown secondary school has been placed on administrative leave following sexual assault allegations reported by students on March 13, 2026. The Ministry of Education says all procedures are being followed, with parents meeting the Welfare Department and students referred to the Child Care and Protection Agency for forensic interviews. The ministry stressed that student welfare remains the top priority and that the investigation is progressing without delay. Tensions flared dramatically inside the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Wednesday as prosecutor Glenn Hanneman issued a forceful call for a reset in the high-stakes extradition proceedings involving sanctioned businessman Nazar Mohammed and his son Azuddin Mohammed. With legal arguments stretching into contentious territory, Hanneman warned that the case is veering dangerously beyond its legal boundaries. More in this report.
Speaking outside the courtroom, Hanneman sharply criticized the direction of the hearing, arguing that valuable time is being lost on matters the magistrates court has no authority to decide. The proceedings, he insisted, must be brought back to the legal core under the Fugitive Offenders Act.
Oh, I think it's clear for everyone to see that this is their strategy. Every single maneuver that they make is to effect this purpose. I think it's very clear. They have filed applications for stays in the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, and all of those courts have found that there are no grounds for these proceedings to be stayed. They have asked the magistrate to stay the proceedings. She has previously refused to stay the proceedings, and they continue to try and obtain delays in this case. We had originally fixed Thursday, meaning tomorrow, for the continuation, and Mr. Ford had long ago indicated that he had certain appearances in the Court of Appeal on Friday. So we had already decided that on Friday we will not have court. On today's date, Mr. Ford came with documents that says that he made a mistake, that it was not in fact Friday, but it was tomorrow that he had to make court appearances. And then yesterday, Azuddin Mohammed, through his lawyer, indicated that it was their belief that Thursday would be a Muslim holiday.
Hanneman made it clear that constitutional arguments and diplomatic assurances fall far outside the jurisdiction of the lower court. According to him, those matters have already been tested and rejected at higher judicial levels, making their reappearance in the current hearing both unnecessary and disruptive. He pointed to recent rulings from the Court of Appeal as evidence that key legal questions have already been settled. Yet, he suggested, the defense continues to revisit those same issues, effectively prolonging proceedings and complicating what should be a focused legal inquiry.
What in our view are a series of irrelevant questions, has no bearing on any issue before the court. But the court, I think, is giving the defense a lot of latitude, and that is the court's right, to give a lot of latitude. But at some point, I mean, we're now bordering on the verge of this thing becoming a circus.
Despite the escalating tensions, Hanneman was careful to defend Principal Magistrate Judy Latchman's handling of the case, stating he had absolutely no complaints about her decisions. Still, he noted that each disputed question triggers lengthy arguments, slowing the pace of the hearing significantly. The sanctions are related to the evasion of taxes on gold exports, with the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, noting that between 2019 and 2023, Mohammed's enterprise omitted more than 10,000 kilograms of gold from import and export declarations and avoided paying more than $50 million in duty taxes to the government of Guyana. Melanie Morris, Guyana TV9 News.
In regional news, Cuba is currently paralyzed by a sweeping energy crisis as it's crumbling. Soviet-era power grid buckles under an intensified U.S. fuel blockade, with rolling blackouts lasting up to 20 hours a day. The humanitarian strain has reached a breaking point, leaving millions in the dark and bringing the island's economy to a virtual standstill. This blackout has become a high-stakes diplomatic lever for Washington, which is reportedly using the crisis to push for political concessions. While President Diaz-Canel has confirmed ongoing talks with U.S. officials to restore oil lifelines, the Cuban people remains caught in the middle, waiting to see if a geopolitical breakthrough will finally flip the switches back on. Internationally, Nigerian's Vice President Kashim Shettima visited Maiduguri after a deadly triple suicide bombing killed 23 people during Ramadan. The attack struck a market, post office, and hospital entrance. Shatima vowed to restore full peace as violence by Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa Providence intensifies. The military said it killed 80 militants, while Defense Chief Olufemi Oledi warned of raising attacks and urged civilians to cooperate to end the insurgency. Those are our major headlines for tonight's newscast. For more trending stories, follow us at our Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube platforms at GYTV9. I'm Adana Dork. Thanks for watching.